Hello, and thank you for tuning in to hear our conversation today with James McFadden, former player at Motherwell, Everton, Birmingham City, Sunderland, St Johnstone, and I'm going to throw in Queen of the South too. My name is Eric McAleer, and I'm the General Manager of WorldStrides Sports Division. I'm excited to welcome James to share some of his experiences, insights, reflections with our global community. First, James, I want to give our audience here a little look at your career, which is just incredible. Born and raised in the Glasgow area of Scotland, James rose through the ranks of Motherwell to earn a special move to the top league in England. He spent 10 years there, and since then has built a great reputation in the coaching world, most notably and recently being number 2 of the Scottish national team. James, welcome and thank you for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Good, brilliant. Thanks for joining us again, James. So whereabouts are you today? Where are you living these days? And what would you be doing today if you weren't staying home?
I'm in Hamilton, which is just outside Glasgow. I would, at the minute, probably be doing the school run and picking my wee boy up from school and getting ready to take him to his training. He's out 4 nights a week, so I'm constantly taxi driver at the minute. So it's given me a nice little break.
So are your kids involved, James? Are they in the game? Are they playing for clubs and teams?
Yeah, my oldest boy, he's in Partick Thistle's academy. So he's only 13, he'll be 14 this year. So it's getting to that age where it's getting real, getting real for him. He's not far away in terms of...
And how are you in that role as a dad, James? How do you see... how do you feel you are as a dad in that role? Are you kind of hands-off, hands-on?
I'm hands-on to the extent that I'm there. I take him to training. I go to every game.
Yeah.
Hands-off, and that I leave him to it. I'll let him play and train and ask him how he done and see how his mood is before I give what I think. If he thinks he's maybe not done so well, I'll try and pick out the positives and let him see it from another side. And if he thinks he's done maybe better than what he actually has, then I'll maybe knock him down a peg or two and let him know that there's more to be done. But generally, I let him try and get on with it on his own. And I've told him this year, there's a culture here where a lot of parents want to get involved and they want to speak to coaches and they want to know what's going on all the time. I try not to do that. And I've told him if he's got any problems this year, from now on, he has to deal with it. He needs to go and speak to the coach. He needs to, ask the questions that can't be coming from me, because then he won't be learning anything. Because I might be telling him something that he doesn't understand, that he can't compute. And if he asks the coach tells him something, and then he's got a question, then I'll definitely help him. But it's much go and learn for yourself. And if you've got any problems, then I'll step in and help.
Brilliant, brilliant. And just as we're, in this lockdown coronavirus period, James, what advice would you be giving young players and coaches during this time?
I think it's, just recharge, just take a break, try and as much as you can switch off, because the pressures, first of all, as a player, the pressures are massive, because you need to make sure you're in peak condition, you're fit, you're there every day in training, you're putting performances on every week, and that brings a lot of anxiety and a lot of tension. So to get a little break from it, I think it's a good thing. Obviously, keep taking over and keep yourself fit for your mind and your body, but I think it's good to get a break. And for coaches, managers, I think it's actually a great time to just switch off, because I know a lot of guys, and you're going to speak to one later on in the week, and David Moyes, they're control freaks. They need to control the environment. They need to they need to be on it 24/7, and that is not a bad thing at all. But I think it's good for the coaches and the managers just to have a break, just chill out. I don't mean don't do anything, but maybe the guys that don't get to spend time with their family, they've got a great chance to spend some quality time with their family. Just switch off and maybe learn something new, look at different sports, read some books, listen to podcasts, whatever, watch some old games. And just, maybe even watch a game that you've liked in the past, just as a fan, and don't need to analyse it. Just watch it for fun, because it doesn't happen very often.
You're right. James, you know I'm taking notes here for my questions for Moyes on Wednesday, and I've just written down that he's a control freak. So I'm just going to, that's the one I'll start with on Wednesday. But you made a great point, and I think just looking back at your career, you probably never had a chance to switch off, slow down, disengage, aside from those serious injuries you had. But aside from that, you probably never had a chance because of the level that you played at, the clubs you played at, your international commitments. I'm sure, you know, that there was never a situation like this where you could really switch off.
No, there's not. I mean, you get your pre-season, but even then it's still, you've got a reflective period where you're thinking about, you know, what you could have done better that season, if it went well, how you can improve, and then you need to keep ticking over. And then you're in that mindset of, right, I need to get fit, I need to make sure I go and have a better season next season, make sure I'm as fit as I can be coming into pre-season. You're getting phone calls, you know, you never really get a chance to switch off. And even with the injuries, I would say they're harder to switch off from because, you know, I was out for 13 months with one of my injuries, which is a long time. There was no rest. There was no time to relax and say, I've got this injury. If I just let it heal, I'll be fine. You're just straight back on it. You're just working every single day, and it's a different environment when you're playing football. I loved playing football. I loved every aspect of training, turning up, doing all the stuff for training. So I loved that. So I never really had a time to switch off. That's your life. It comes first, and that's right. So any, you know, whether it's family birthdays or, you know, school holidays, you're still working, especially in the summer holidays. That's your busy time. So you're not seeing a lot of your kids. Your Christmas, your New Year, all your time where you would normally get to spend time with your family. You don't get it, and there's a lot of sacrifice. I would never change it, but I just think, you know, there's a lot more going on at the minute, and I think that now's a good time for players, coaches, managers, just to have a time just to relax, just to recharge, find that hunger. Maybe even it might just spark something in some players that have just been coasting along, saying this is great, this is easy, or other boys that turn up to training every day saying I hate this. You know, I don't enjoy this. This isn't what I want to do. Maybe this is a time for them to say, what a life I've got. You know, I've got a great chance to go and really be successful. And that can be any level. You look at Andy Robertson playing at Queen's Park. 5 years later, he's winning the Champions League. So it's not just the elite players. It's everybody. It can be a chance just to start something, to say, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to give it everything I've got.
Yeah, I agree, James. And so just jumping on here, obviously David Moyes, that we've mentioned a couple of times, a good friend of mine, and certainly you spent a lot of time playing for him. And I remember distinctly he made the comment that he never saw James McFadden being a coach. And I think just to follow up from that, you know, I think the question, when and why did the light go on for you, and you know, how you saw this being the next steps in your journey?
I think it just happens as you get older. You know, there's some guys like Moyes, who you spoke about, he wanted to be a coach probably before he wanted to be a player. And I think he was always preparing for that. And there's guys and managers that I've worked under that have been the same, and writing down sessions and you know, planning that far ahead. I just never had that. I just thought, I want to play football. I started at Motherwell, and I was really grateful just to play in Motherwell's first team. And it just seemed I would get better, and then I got attention, and then I moved to Everton, and all I wanted to do was play football. I never had any, you know, I never thought, right, when I'm finished, I'm going to be a coach. I just wanted to enjoy as much as I could the then and now, and not look too far ahead, because as would happen when I got to 27 and I had a bad injury with my knee, that was a chance I was never going to come back from that. So I just wanted to enjoy every moment of that time. And I will admit, and I'm sure he'll tell you when you speak to him, I was difficult at times because I wanted to play. I was just desperate to play. So if I didn't play, I wasn't happy. But every single day in training, I gave everything I had to try and get the best out of myself. And I suppose it was more as you get older. When I went back to Motherwell after my second spell at Everton and my short spell at Sunderland, you take the responsibility of being the experienced player, and all of a sudden the younger players are asking you questions. Some of the older players are asking you questions and asking for advice. And I love to share. I love to pass on what I've learned, good and bad. Just tell them, look, I made this mistake. Don't do it. Trust me. Listen to me. I've been there. I had the same attitude. If it's a young kid who isn't playing, who maybe isn't putting the most into training, or it's the manager's fault, it's the coach's fault, he won't pass to me. I'm putting a ball in the box. He's not getting on the end of it. Always blaming other people. You're trying to tell them, look, I've been there. I've been that angry person that wants to fight the world, and then it's always everybody else's fault. Look, take responsibility. Take it on yourself. Only you can do it. And these are lessons that I was taught when I was younger from my first managers, my first coaches, experienced players. Experienced players for me were the key.
Who did you have, James? Who did you have just out of interest in that first Motherwell group that you were coming through, between managers, senior players, captains, etc.? Who were the best influences on James McFadden as a young player?
Well, I had Billy Davis. He was my under-15s coach, and within 2 years, Billy Davis was the manager. Yeah. So then I went in full time, and Billy was great. He was really hard on me. His training was brilliant. He was a great coach. Got the best out of the players. Done really, really well. And I had a coach, McAleer, and McAleer was the under-18s coach, and he was a guy that taught you to grow up. You come in door at 16, you think you're this, great, you're a football player. You're not a football player at 16. You're in to learn, you're in to try and prove yourself. You get so far, and then you need to work hard. And Mickey was great in terms of, helping you grow up and turn into a man, and make sure you're ready for that environment of someone shouting at you if you've misplaced a pass. Billy Davis would do it as well. And we had some top players in that team. We go through the team with Andy Gorham, Sean Teal, Jed Brannan, Pat Nevin was there, Scott Leach, who would stay on after administration, John Spencer, Don Goodman. So there was some top players there that were. I was in the youth, so you didn't have as much involvement with them. Yeah. And then when the club went into administration, or just before, Eric Black had come in, and Eric Black's a brilliant coach, brilliant manager. He'd done it a bit different because he'd played in France. Eric brought that kind of French style and brought in a lot of French players, so it showed you a different way of working. But he was encouraged, always about encouragement. Terry Butcher was his assistant. Terry Butcher was, he had this persona, the perception that he was hard and he wanted to fight and he was angry. He couldn't be further from the truth. He was so encouraging. Play your pass, don't underhit a pass. Commit to it. I'd rather it went 10 yards beyond than it fell 10 yards short. It was always encouraging the young players to express themselves and go and play. And he was great for that. And he had, after administration, there was only so many experienced players that stayed on. Stevie Woods, goalkeeper. Scott Leach was great for the young kids. Scott Leach was, he really took that role on of being the captain and being responsible for this gang of young kids that were just trying to learn the way. It really helped. He helped with that. And a guy called Dirk Lehmann as well, who a German guy, stayed on. He helped me a lot because when I played as a striker, I played off him, and he always just offering those little bits of advice and telling you when you've overstepped the line, or telling you, and encouraging you, look, show a bit more, do more. So starting from then, you take that in and say, right, when I'm an old player, this is how I'm going to be. I'm going to help these young guys. And that kind of sets you on your journey to coaching without even realising it.
And then some of the names that you said there, James, that's some impressive names that had big time international careers, and you also look at Motherwell as a club. I'm sure that was a good fit for you, as opposed to Celtic or a Rangers or that it seemed as if Motherwell was just a great fit for you personally coming through.
It was brilliant because you had all these players that were well established. Then you had, Lee McCulloch, Steve McMillan, two guys that come through the ranks who they were learning off of these guys. Then they were passing the extra bits that you maybe weren't getting because you were a young player coming through. Then the both of them went on to Wigan and moved for big money at that time from Motherwell. So they were the guys that you kind of aspired to. And I think the way that I played was off the cuff in a way that when I got the ball, I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I wanted to dribble, and I would find a way. I would always find a way. Yeah. If I was at Celtic or Rangers, a bigger club, then that would have taken me longer, I think, to make the breakthrough. Circumstances helped as well. You know, I got in the team when the club. I made my debut with those players. You know, John Spencer, Andy Gorham, Pat Nevin. These guys were all playing when I made my debut, so I must have been doing something right. But in order for me to become a regular, it took something, you know, disastrous at the club, getting into administration, where I was the best young player, so I was in the team. And regardless of who I played, I was in the team the following week. So you're a young player, you know yourself, you're up and down.
Yeah.
Because I would turn it on now and again, or create something out of nothing. Then I stayed in the team and I got to learn, you know, every week.
Yeah.
You know, can't make the same mistakes. You need to improve. So it was brilliant for me. It was a place where, you know, the fans, because, you know, you want to go and take people on, you want to try something different. The fans love it. And the fact you're coming through, you know, their club and you're one of their players, you know, they have nothing but support for you. And it was the perfect place for me. But I would have to say, no matter who you are, no matter where you play, you need a little bit of luck. And I had a lot of luck along the way. But when you get in, you get a chance, you need to make sure you take it.
Yeah. And I think to you, you know, is certainly listening to some of your previous interviews, you know, people had given you the description as a Gallus Glasgow boy, you know, which for those that come from outside of Glasgow is very complimentary in a Glasgow way, you know, and I think from that perspective, you know, what advice would you give to aspiring young players and coaches that want to make it to the next level when you think back to your journey, you know, from being a Gallus Glasgow boy to the Scotland number 2?
I think it's, you know, I had a talent to dribble, and, you know, I played football the way I wanted to play it for my enjoyment.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I had coaches that tried to get me to pass it and try to, you know, mould me into how they wanted me to play. And when I was younger, at times I never got it. You know, it was like, well, you can't run with it all the time. You need to pass. You need to basically improve your decision making. When it's on to run, when it's on to pass, when it's on to put the cross in, all these different things. But I just had you know, I just wanted to go and play. I just wanted to. When you're on the pitch, you have to. It's very difficult, and I see a lot of problems now with youth, certainly in Scotland, because this is where I see it. Yeah. With youth coaching, that the coaches want to tell the player, every player, to make every decision for that player. It's impossible. The players don't see what the coach sees, and they don't have that experience. Now, it might be, you know, the most experienced coach, or a guy that's, because he's got an A licence, all of a sudden he's a great coach. He knows everything, because you're always learning. Doesn't matter what you're doing, you're always learning. Yeah. For me, when I watch it, I look and see young boys are told, do this, do that, do this, do it then. And it's constant shouting at the players. They don't know why they're doing it. They'll do it. They don't know why they're doing it. Yeah. The higher up they go, they've got the inability to make a decision, because the coach has always made it for them. Yeah. And that was why I think I was a bit different, because they tried to do that, but I just done what was natural to me, and it got me, you know, it got me far enough. And then when I went to Everton, the manager, the gaffer was the same, Moyes was the same, you know, trying to, you know, make my decision making better. He taught me a different way, because he knew, you know, if I got that chance, I could make a difference. And I probably didn't realise that until I left, how much time and effort that he put into improving me. But I would say, you know, we need to try and encourage the individuality. Not so the kids can just do whatever they want, but they have to make their own mistakes. If they're not making their own mistakes, if you're telling them to pass to that player at that time, and he does it and loses the ball, then the coach shouts at him. The player can't really take responsibility for that, because he's been told to do it, and he might not see it. So I think it's important that the player sees what they see, and you've got to realise it might be just that. How can you get them to maybe open up and see something a bit better with a bit more vision to then make that decision themselves? I think the players need to make their own mistakes in order to learn from them.
And I think just to your point there as well, James, is you obviously spent a lot of years playing for David Moyes and using him as maybe your first example. Can you speak to some of the leaders or the managers or the captains that you're playing under and or with, through your years, who stands out for you? And I'm sure they've all got different pieces that you maybe took from, but just give us a little insight to some of the best leaders that you played for through your years.
Well, I touched on, at Motherwell when I was younger. I seen the older ones, the guys I mentioned about, the top level ones, John Spencer and Don Goodman, and you watch how they work. You see them training. I didn't get to train with them too often, but you see how all these guys work. Pat Nevin was brilliant for me when I was a kid, because he was always offering advice on, like little different techniques for dribbling and practicing your dribbling. And then when all those guys left and went into administration, as I said, Stevie Woods, always there to do extra and to help you out. Scott Leach on the pitch was like, he took that responsibility of, right, these are all young guys, I need to protect every single one of them. And he done that, and he done that great. Moving on to Everton, obviously I speak about him. I speak about David Moyes quite a lot, because I spent a lot of time at Everton, and I have a huge amount of respect for him and for what he tried to do for me and what he actually done for me, because he improved players. That's what he done. His goal was to make everybody better every day, and he done that. So he was a great leader. But in that dressing room, you had, Davy Weir, captain for Scotland. You had Alan Stubbs, you had Lee Carsley, you had David Unsworth. Looking through Duncan Ferguson, quiet guy. He's another guy who people thought wouldn't go into coaching, and he probably didn't want to go into coaching. In fact, I know he never, but he's found himself in, because guys love the game. But you've got all these guys that, when you talk about leaders, they're not all of them are saying, grabbing you the scruff of the neck and saying, come on, I need this, and screaming and shouting. It might just be the example, or a bit of quiet leadership. David Weir was quietly, when he spoke, you listened. And he was the one guy that when he spoke to you, you felt like he cared. You could feel that he cared about you. So if it was, more often than not, it was to bring me down a peg or two. And it was always, right, come on, right, that's enough. Let's, get your head right. Let's do this. And I still speak to him now, and it's always, I still feel like I'm waiting for him to give me into trouble for something, but. These guys.
You look at the career he's had, James, the David Weirs of the world. And again, some people you just round off there. Duncan Ferguson, what an experience that must have been for you as a young Scottish kid, coming behind him. What was your experience of Duncan?
Duncan was great. I've said this before, and I'm sure you've watched it. When it took, I think it was a year, just towards the end of the season, for him to really, have a chat with me, if you like. I'd speak to him, train beside him and do things. And every single day, Duncan Ferguson was the first guy in the building. He was in the gym in the morning. Straight after training was finished, he'd go round the back, he'd do finishing every single day, every day. And when you watched him, his touch was immaculate. He's finishing either foot, any way, outside of the boot, side foot pass, drill it, cut across it, every type of finish. He worked every day. Once he was finished doing his extra shooting, he'd go into the gym again and do his stuff in the gym. An unbelievable pro. And I don't know if it was because the penny dropped with Dunk and he was getting to the end of his career. But that to me that's not, you get guys that tell you, I was in the gym this morning, I was in for an hour, I done this, then I done that. And he just done it. He got on with his business. More often than not, he would tell you to beat it. He'd be like, out of the way, I'm busy, I'm working. He'd never tell you what he was doing. But as a younger player looking at that and saying, well, that's the level. He's leading without even knowing it. He's wanting himself to improve himself every single day. And he's at the top level. Bar injuries, he would have been a player that people spoke about for years and years.
Oh yeah. And I think to that same point as well, James, I think when you look at, just hearing some of the players and teams and leaders that you talked about, Can you speak to some of the best cultures that you've been in and what made them so special? You know, whether that be at Motherwell or even at Queen of the South or the Scottish national team. You know, where was the best fit or the team spirit or the best culture that you felt that you fitted best and it got the best out of James McFadden?
I've been fortunate that I've not been in too many bad dressing rooms or bad cultures. I think that coming through at Motherwell, getting to see all these players and see how they work and trying to aspire to guys that had played at the top level, international football, Premier League in England, then coming to play for Motherwell, you wanted to aspire to be these guys, and then they all left, and you've got a group of young guys that are all trying to learn off each other. Yeah. Great team spirit, because we were all mates. We came through the YTS together. Maybe there was 2 or 3 years between, so that was a great dressing room. And going to Everton, you know, David Moyes he is a control freak in terms of he knows what he wants, and you will do it. And if you don't do it, then you know there's no allowance. It's fine. He's a good player. I'll let him away, but you have to do it, and that. It makes him sound as if he's a drill sergeant. It's not at all. What I mean is the standard of training was ridiculous. The tempo, you know, the quality of training, the quality of the drills that he used to put on. His coaching was brilliant, but the demands that he set were so high. And a lot of times he would tell you, I'm going to set a standard that I don't think you can achieve. And that's obviously part of the management. We can't achieve that. We'll achieve that, don't worry. But he had players that he trusted. You know, the guys I mentioned, Alan Stubbs, Davy Weir, Lee Carsley, they got it. They brought in Phil Neville. You know, there was always an older, you know, a good mix. Guys that, you know, knew what it was about, knew that, you know, the dressing room managed itself. The manager was strict in a way that you had rules. But he trusted you to abide by the rules. But he also had a dressing room where if you weren't performing, whether it be in training, there'd be arguments every day in training. You know, because the standard. It's all about the standard. So that culture of, you know, the demands, and it used to do, you know, you see people doing rondos in their boxes. He had the lines painted on. So you'd get Groundsman to paint the lines on. And it was strict. You had to, if you got a touch, when you were in the middle chasing the ball, if you got a touch, it was a touch. There was no arguments. If you played a bad pass and who you passed it to lost the ball, the person that played the bad pass would put the hand up and say, "It's a bad pass, I'm going in." If the ball went like a millimetre over the line, ball's out, and nobody moaned. And the reason he done that was because he didn't like it being. Obviously, it had to be fun, but it was still work. So if you play a bad pass in a game, own up to it. Don't put your mate in trouble. If the ball's out, the ball's out. Be honest. You're only cheating yourself and your teammate. So it was all about, you know, it was a fun session, but there was always involved in it. And it probably that was, you know, to sum up exactly what it was like, because it was the details, the reasons why you were doing it. Trust your teammate. Give him the ball. It doesn't matter if you don't think he's the best player, but you're training every day with him. Give him the ball. Give him a good pass so that he can deal with the next pass, so that the team can win. And it was all about the team. And
I think in that same point, James, a couple of times I myself came into Finch Farm and watched training a few times. You were there. You were participating in training. The thing that stood out to me most, and you know, I knew Jimmy Lumsden and a few others that were there, and the thing that stood out to me most was just what you described. You know, like those pitches across the back. Have all these stations set up, and it would flow for, you know, for rondos to, you know, a counter-attacking session to, you know, the next thing, and the flow would just run. But the big thing that jumped out to me is Moyes was front and centre. You know, he was predominantly, you know, driving the bus. He was setting the standard. He was setting the tone, and that never lowered. And I came in 3 or 4 times, and the same tone was there at all times.
Oh, he took everything. You know, when I first went to Everton with no sports scientist, he took the warm-up. And this is, when I say he's a control freak, I don't mean, it does sound bad, in the best possible way. He Because he could do it. He took the warm-ups, he took the passing drills, the possession drills. If it was finishing, he'd take the finishing. If it was individual striker, he would take that. If it was individual defending, he would take that. He could do everything. Yeah. And that's what I mean by the standard that he set. You know, and Jimmy Lumsden, Alan Irvine worked with two. Alan Irvine's an absolutely top coach. Yeah. He never, you know, had to do a lot because Moyes could do it all. Jimmy Lumsden was great foil for him because the training was so intense and the manager was so determined to set this standard. You know, at times they upset you, and that's what happens. Managers do it. Jimmy Lumsden was great foil to come and say, look, this is maybe what he meant, and try and help you. So, in terms of that culture was brilliant. It was a great grounding for me because it taught me about setting a standard. It taught me about not messing about in training, do everything right, small things. You talk about you look at the top players, and I tell my kids, and I tell any young players that are watching, and how they always say, how can I get better? You know, what should I be doing? And I say, well, look at the top players. At the minute, my wee boy's playing midfield. You look at De Bruyne, the range of passing, you know, his vision, his goals. But see all these players, they have mastered the basics. They can do extra, but they also don't neglect the fact that a 5-yard pass has to be the right way at the right place for the right reason. And they're not giving the ball away, you know, to pass the buck. They're making the pass so that they can go in another direction or to move the opposition. You know, a lot of them look at, you know, all the skills and all the glamorous side of it and say, right, I need to work on this. You don't. You need to learn to walk before you can run. Build the basics. Never neglect the basics, and that's something that we done at Everton. It was always, you know, never allowed slackness. You know, I remember we trained one day and it was at Belfield, the old training ground, and we were doing a possession drill, and the manager wasn't happy. So he stepped in and says, right, come on, that's not good enough. Standards, it's terrible. You've got 5 minutes. So went in again, the standard never improved. So he just says, right, everybody off, go home, see you tomorrow. And we're like, well, this never happened. So a few of the boys tried to stay back and do some extra passing. He's like, off the pitch. Don't go in the gym. Don't go in the canteen. Get in, get a shower, get your clothes on, and get home. Yeah. If you're going to train like that, you won't be training. Come back in tomorrow. By the way, see the next day. Oh wow! All sitting about, nobody's giving it away. And that's just recognising this isn't right. I need to fix it. It was great. It was great. But
what a message for you. Now, see, you're talking about culture as well. See, just through your years in the Scotland national team, James, how was the? And I know you went through a kind of phase of 2 or 3 different sets of players. How was the culture through those years, and you know, how was that fit for you?
Well, at the start, when Bertie Vogts came in, he'd heard that I was a Glasgow boy, and I don't think he knew what it meant. So somebody tried to tell him. So I was Bertie's cheeky boy. That was what Bertie described me as, because I was a bit different. And when I went in at first, you know, there was a huge transition. The last team had just narrowly missed out in the Euro 2000 playoffs against England, I'm pretty sure. So I'd made my debut in 2002, I think. Right. So Bertie was a manager. We'd missed out in 2002, South Korea. So Bertie was a manager, and he'd come in, and you know, you had Colin Henry, Matt Elliott, Craig Burley came back. You know, all the guys that were at the World Cup 1998, Colin Calderwood, Tommy Boyd, these guys had all retired, so they were trying to find, you know, the next group, and we didn't have a lot of good players. So Bertie had to have, you know, I played in a Scotland trial. He just called up everybody that was available for Scotland, and we had trial games. And you picked some players from it, and you got your cap. So it was a transition period. You had other guys like Davy Weir and some older guys that had been there before and been part of the squad, Christian Daly, Gary Naismith, and they were guys that were trying to help this, you know, group of young guys that were nowhere near ready for international football. The majority, you know, the amount of guys that bet he must have given 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 caps to, and were never seen again. But he had to do it. He had to filter through to find some good players, and he done that. So coming on to the, you know, the latter stages of Bertie's reign, you know, we got to the playoffs against Holland, and we had a good squad, a good squad of players, good mixture of guys that were playing in Scotland, guys that were playing quite high up in England, and we narrowly missed out. And then when Walter Smith came in, Walter, you know, changed. He added to it. Sorry, he brought in, and I don't know if it was just the type of players that he'd called up, but it was a club atmosphere. It was a brilliant culture. Same again when you went away with Scotland. You know, I was used to a high standard at Everton because we had good players and because of what I was saying about the manager. But when you went away with Scotland, you had 22 players all vying for a place. So the standard was so high, the tempo was so high. And Walter, you know, encouraged that. Tommy Burns alongside him was brilliant. Tommy worked with Betty Fox, obviously. And the standard was so high. But the dressing room, the camaraderie amongst the guys was, you know, it was very much like a club side. And that's what, obviously we never qualified, but that's what helped us. And then Eric McAleer came in, and that just, it was almost reinforced again, because Eric McAleer's man management skills were brilliant. You know, knew how to get the best out of players. We just had this strong bond as a group. Because when you start from Betty Vokes, you're trying to filter through and build a squad. And then when Walter comes in, the squad you had a good nucleus, a good core of players that maybe 1 or 2 had come in and out of. But you had a core that were like, you were meeting up September, October, November, March, June. So you were always like, right, can't wait to meet up again. That was a good time we had then. So you had a club atmosphere. Yeah. And those were the ones where you had players, Barry Ferguson, the standards he set, you know, if he didn't pass the ball to him, he'd go crazy. He'd just always shouting at you, always arguing. And that was for him. That was the way he got the standard. If you went up to it and you couldn't answer back and you couldn't deal with it, Barry would always be on at you. But if you could control it and give him the ball, you were all right.
Yeah, exactly.
So many players that had, you know, those standards. And as I said, it was like a club side, and I think that's when you enjoy it. When you're in a dressing room with guys that you like and you want to spend time, you don't need to be best mates with them, but sit and have a coffee, have a laugh and a joke, speak about their experiences at their club, and try and, you know, pick their brains about what they do and how you can maybe, you know, incorporate that into how you play. So it was a fantastic time. Yeah.
So just to finish up here, James, and certainly, you know, this has been fantastic. I think that the final question really here is what are your next steps? And to follow up that question, you know, would you be open to working in the US? I think, you know, and you look at your journey, and you and I have certainly talked before as well, is, you know, what's the next steps for you, and would that be a possibility for you stepping into the US?
The next steps to get a job coaching. You know, I've been doing the media work and I really enjoy it, but I think that coaching and helping players, trying to make players better, I think that's something that I'm really passionate about. I'd love to go and be a manager and be a head coach somewhere, and really, because I enjoy the personal side of it. You know, I feel as if I can relate to different people, because I have had a strange journey, if you like. Yeah. But I want to get back into coaching. I love working with players. I love, you know, trying to make them better. I'd love to work in the US. I think it's, you know, it's really, really, it's past on the way up. You know, it's up there at the minute. Yeah. I think it's only going to get stronger. I've been over. I trained at Philadelphia. I like the way that the players respond to the coaching, and how their attitudes are to want to improve. I found that even when I went there, I was on trial there for 2 weeks, and the players were asking me stuff, because I was based in Europe, obviously played in England. It was like, you know, asking advice, and I thought that was great, because it could. A lot of time I've seen, you know, trialists come in and people go, "Oh, how's the new trialist? Oh, I don't know. I've not spoke to him." Everybody was so welcoming. They were all wanting to learn if they could, if I could pass on advice, and that was, you know, a real eye opener for me, and it's something that I would love to do, to come over and try my hand at coaching in the US.
Well, this has been fantastic, James, and thanks so much for spending time with us and being so candid, so honest. I know our community appreciates it, and we look forward to, you know, watching you getting back to coaching, and just, you know, so thankful and appreciate the time that you've spent with us. So thanks again, James, and take care of yourself.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thanks, James.